everybody? We got a special guest today. We got Fran here. Nice to meet you, Fran.
Thanks, Jason.
Fran is the guy that introduced me to the HC2 Diet, which stands for high carb, high calorie. So I'll just have him kind of explain a little bit about himself.
Thanks, Jason. Great to be here. Thanks for this opportunity. It's not rocket science. It's not something super special. It is based around high carbohydrates, though, which is to many people contradicting to what society is to believe is the right way or the best way to get healthy and to lose weight and to be lean. But through my experience and a lot of trial and error over the years, I've formulated it, or at least I think I've got it down to a T now, where we cover all the bases. It is based around a lot of fruits, because I think that for any diet to be an efficient high carbohydrate diet, the carbs need to be the right carbs. Because a lot of people get it wrong when they think that they can eat all these sorts of foods, and as long as they stay under a certain amount of numbers or calories or nutrients, that they're allowed to eat pretty much any type of foods. And you found through your experience that when you eat a diet that consists of the right fuel and the right sources, that your body just turns into literally a machine. And so, to give you a little background about myself, I grew up as an athlete. I bodybuilded. I was a bodybuilder for a little over a decade. My last competition, I was 32 years old. It was about 7 years ago now. I started when I was a teenager, but before that, I was a very hyperactive kid, and I grew up playing many sports, and I actually excelled at tennis, and went on to play a little bit of college tennis away from Hawaii. It only lasted a year, but after that I got into the whole weightlifting thing, and then the whole competitive bodybuilding phase of my life. But I was always that type A kid that always wanted to be the best at whatever he did, and I don't know if there was any other kids at the time, but I was like, for instance, when I was playing tennis, like I remember back in the VCR days, I would get those VHS tapes, and I would record these tennis matches, and I'd rewind and fast forward, so I could just replay over and over like the motions that these tennis players that I idolized, and I wanted to emulate, because I thought that their way was the best way. So as far as my background, I used to be a competitive bodybuilder like Jason, a little over a decade, and it's been 7 years since I've competed. I think my looks speak for myself, speak for itself. I don't, I'm not involved with the sport anymore. Although I like to help people, and I'm still passionate about getting people in great shape. But I was that nerdy bodybuilder where when I started as a teenager, I wanted to learn everything I could about bodybuilding and exercise and nutrition, and I quickly realized that there was an endless amount of information out there, and it was never ending for me. Almost 13 years of competing, I never stopped wanting to learn. I pretty much had a subscription to every bodybuilding magazine out there. There was Flex, Muscle Fitness, Muscle Mag. I had them all, but at the same time, like any scientific journal I could get my hands on or study, or anything that related to exercise science, I wanted to know about. And when it comes to nutrition, it was the same. And I think as bodybuilders, we're always experimenting with nutrition, whether it's the off season where we're bulking up, or contest time when we're getting ready for a show and we're trying to get really lean and cut and ripped for stage. We're always experimenting, and I was that bodybuilder again that tried different things. I hired and paid for different advisors and coaches to put me through different programs, because I wanted to find what was best, but also find what worked best for me. But there was one year, towards the end of my bodybuilding days, where I was like, I'm not going to listen to anyone. I think I learned and read enough to kind of come to a conclusion that there was a better way, and coincidentally, it was against everything that I was taught or what everyone else thought was the right way, and I just went with it. When it came to carbs, we all know what it feels like to be on low carbs, and we all know what it feels like to be on high carbs. But I also knew what it felt like to be on the wrong carbs, and a lot of it were the type of carbohydrates that we think are healthy, but at the same time, they elicit different responses from our bodies because of the insulin levels or the blood sugar levels. And I won't go into the exact science of it all, but when it comes to carbs, fruits are really the best source of carbohydrates. And fruits get a bad rap because they consist of sugars, but they consist of fructose, which is, in my opinion, the magic potion or the fountain of youth when it comes to carbohydrates, because our body absorbs it very well, and it's released into our system at a time released rate. And I like to use different analogies, and when it comes to sugars, the word sugar gets a bad rap.
So just kind of talk about sugars briefly.
Yeah.
What's your take on if it fits your macros? So basically you got to hit your macronutrient numbers, also your micronutrient numbers, but people tend to kind of blow things out of proportion where they start to eat ice cream, they'll start to eat Pop-Tarts in place of sweet potatoes or yams, just to give themselves a mental break from it. But a lot of people going against it are saying, what you put in your body does matter. So people are eating kids' cereals, high fructose corn syrup, basically, stuffing their face until they're quote unquote satisfied for the day.
Yeah, and you nailed it right there, Jason. It's not. I think nowadays, with science and technology, we're finding that it's not so much how much you eat. It's really what you eat, and the frame of mind that most people have is the opposite. It's all about how much you eat. It's how many calories you're eating, how many carbs you're eating, and as long as you fall in those guidelines, those specific guidelines that are prescribed, then you are golden, and you're not gonna, you're gonna reach your goal. So that means you can eat pretty much anything, whether it's from a natural source or from a processed source, a man-made source. And that is where I feel people have got it wrong, because as I've proven, as you've seen, with the HC2 diet, it really isn't how much you eat, it's what you eat, because we've proven that even though you're eating upwards of 4,000, 5,000 calories a day, and most of it coming from carbohydrates, you're still able to lose weight, and not get out of shape.
And which is fun because I just started the diet after I came back from the LA Fit Expo, and I was literally intaking about 250 grams of protein, carbs, moderate amount of fat, really not more than 3,000 calories a day, but I was also about 250. So after being on the diet for about 6 weeks or so, I'm eating over 4,000 calories, and I dropped 20 pounds. So it's crazy how this works. I really want to try it out for myself because I've done the ketogenic diets, I've done the low carb diets, I've done the carb cycling diets, and being that people will work with different coaches who have coaches themselves, how different can it really be? So I really want to try and see the efficiency of the diet from the people that I know who have tried it and who have only good things to say about it, because essentially they get into competition condition while eating double the amount of food that everyone else around them is eating, and they feel better.
Yeah, sure. And they're eating double the amount, but it's not the same foods. I always tell people, with the diet that they're getting, in shape with, if they were to turn that diet into an all-you-can-eat diet with the same foods that were prescribed to them, I asked them, would they get fat? And the answer is always yes, if they ate unlimited amounts of it. Well, with the HC2 diet, all the foods that I prescribe to my clients and my athletes, it's if you ate as much as you want all day, every day, you will not get fat. So at the end of the day, when it comes down to getting ready for a competition or trying to lose weight or get lean, wouldn't that diet also be the best diet to get lean with? Because now you're able to maintain and not get fat off of a diet that's yielding upwards of 4,000 calories a day. You just bring that down a little bit, and now you're losing body fat with 3,000 calories a day. Whereas, the traditional way, people are eating, healthy foods that are, like the norm: chicken breast, sweet potatoes, oatmeal, brown rice. All those foods are healthy for sure, but you still have to portion control. You still have to restrict to some degree in order to lose weight. And at the end of the day, that becomes a low-calorie diet, because if those same people were to eat the same foods but in unlimited amounts, they would put on the fat and the weight easily and quickly.
The whole HC2 diet is based around high carb, high calorie. And you did mention about the athletes, how a lot of professional Olympic level athletes will just eat so many amount of calories, but then yet their body composition just looks so phenomenal. And without really even trying, you kind of mentioned a little bit about CrossFit before, how these people could just train almost every single day, but they're not doing isolation exercises. They're not doing a single body part a day workouts, but we can just assume that they need to feed their body with essential nutrients calorie-wise, because they burn out so much during the workouts, but they're not so restrictive compared to, say, like a figure athlete, a bikini athlete, maybe even a bodybuilder whose carbs go below 100 grams, their calories go 1,000 grams a day, and we're talking about some of the guys too, so some people had asked me, like, even when I go to Trader Joe's, I'll buy boxes of bananas, 2 to 3 boxes at a time, which is 200 to 300 bananas. I'll just tell them, I'm making like some banana splits. What do you have to say to people who say, what about the potassium levels? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably my number one question I get. When it comes to the potassium, I understand where people are coming from, because bananas are known to be the most, when people think potassium, they think, bananas. And of all the fruits, bananas have the most potassium. But, people think that excess potassium is deadly or it can kill you, because, when criminals get sentenced to death row, they're injected with a lethal injection of pretty much potassium that kills them on the spot. And, I don't know the numbers. There's these fruitarians out there that have made the argument themselves, so I'll let them deal with that part. But it's something to the effect of, like, you would have to eat 500 bananas at one sitting in order to get that lethal amount of potassium where your heart would stop beating. And obviously that would never happen. I told Jason earlier today that potatoes, as a matter of fact, have a good amount of more potassium, gram for gram, pound for pound, have more potassium than bananas do. But people don't ever question, are you going to die from eating too much potatoes when someone's eating a lot of potatoes? And I think that just comes from the general belief that, like, fruits aren't really necessarily looked at as a major food group. They're not looked at as the foundation of any diet. When people think about fruits, they think about it being a snack or a dessert or a topping to something or an accessory to a diet. Typically we think of meats and potatoes and grains as foundation of what the American diet should be. But I beg to differ. I'm trying to get people to lean towards fruits as being the foundation of their nutritional menu, their daily menu. And if people can lean towards that route, they're going to really experience all the things that I talk about.
You have mentioned about how a few of your clients' blood pressure had gotten better after being on the diet, whereas, like, say you got other people who, maybe doctors even, they'll prescribe medications, or other people will prescribe getting over-the-counter pills or supplements. But isn't the goal for everybody to have a healthier lifestyle through food?
Absolutely, you nailed it, Jason. And like, in a perfect world, I would hope that everyone would think that way. But unfortunately, in our society these days, it's a lot of the motivation to going on diets, especially in the sport that you're involved in and the sport that I once involved in. It's all about looks, and it's all about going on diets to obtain a certain look and an image. It's almost like the health and the fitness aspect behind eating a certain way, it kind of goes out the door that becomes like the icing on the cake or the bonus. But what I try to teach people is, with the HC2 diet, that the weight loss and the looks become the byproduct of all these other great things that come with eating a certain way. And we talked about the blood pressure of my friend. I mean, he had blood pressures to the point where his levels were asking for medication from his doctors, and he's in his 30s, and there's no reason why anyone in his 30s should be taking medication for blood pressure. But after being on HC2, he recently took his blood pressure, and it's above average. His numbers were, I believe it was 117/78, which is a healthy range now. So yeah, I mean, I wish people would look at food more as a way to live as opposed to a way to look.
The reason why I wanted to do the HC2 diet was to find out a more efficient way to diet down for competitions without starving myself, without feeling the need to binge eat, without feeling like I'm gonna pass out midday at work, So I mean, that's really the reason why I wanted to kind of start it out. But as far as the keto diet, it's like I've done it for a minimum of 15 weeks, 3 times, and just felt horrible on it.
Yeah, and we can all relate to that, Jason. And I've been there, and a lot of the listeners who don't even compete have been there, because at one point or another, I think almost everyone I come across have at one time gone on a low carb, Atkins, ketogenic, whatever you want to call it, those type of diets. And at the end of the day, if you really pick them apart, Jason, they're all low calorie diets. They're all restricted diets. And when an advisor, a coach, or a guru, whatever you want to call them, when they prescribe these menus to their clients, I mean, it's easy for them to prescribe the exact same program for everyone, for Jason, for Joe Bodybuilder, for Jane Fitness competitor, or for the average person that doesn't exercise, that just wants to look good. You can prescribe the exact same program for all of them, because at the end of the day, they're all low calorie diets, and a low calorie diet will always cause someone to lose weight, because in essence they're starvation diets in disguise. You put anyone on I love using this analogy, that you put anyone on a stranded island, a deserted island, and they'll all lose weight because they're all starving. And bodybuilders, unfortunately or fortunately, they have a ton of muscle, and they lift a lot of weights and they exercise. So when they starve themselves and they lose all that body mass, at the end they yield a very chiseled, muscular look. But in essence, in theory, what they did was they just starved themselves to lose all that body fat.
So a few of the viewers were wondering where could they find out more about your program and the duration, the results that your clients have had, and the body composition effects it might have on someone who works out every day, who's a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, sure. Unfortunately, at this point, there isn't anything official, really. I don't have a program or a book to provide anyone with. But I did start writing recently on my website. You could go to www.seriousfitness.com,
And I'll put the link below.
Okay, and that's spelled with the S-U-R, like my name, as opposed to serious with the S-E-R. I wanted to start writing because I wanted to start educating people. As the word gets out and more and more people are getting results, I've been getting personally more and more messages, and my inbox is always full, and I have a full-time job. I don't do this as a profession, so I don't have the time to help everyone. I wish I did. I would love to help everyone that inquires with me. But because it's such a unique diet and an unorthodox way of looking at things, there's always going to be a ton of questions and even critics, and people want to ask me questions and also debate with me, and I don't have the time for that. So I just thought I'd just start writing, and through my blogs, hopefully as more and more come out, that people will be able to understand and figure out the way HC2 works, and how to start it, and how to proceed with it and turn it into a lifestyle. And sooner or later, I think there will be a book. So look out for that.
And I'll be open to getting an autographed book, by the way, right, Fran?
Absolutely, Jason.
But,
first and foremost.
The thing I like about what he just said was turn to a healthy lifestyle. Going on competition diets and then binge eating right after you're done. You're yo-yoing your metabolism, just essentially messing it up. So healthy lifestyle, that should be everyone's goal. So I'd like to thank Fran for coming by today and spending some time to get to know him and everything going on right now. So I'll link below his website and check out some of his blog posts. All right, thank you, Fran.
Thanks, Jason. Pleasure.